Thank you all for coming to the Health and Wellness Family Chat this afternoon. We appreciate your time and glad you could join us. For those of you who may never have been to a CEC meeting, there are 32 CECs throughout the city, plus 4 citywide members.
Right now,
each CEC represents a community school district, and each is made up of 11 volunteer members, 9 of whom are elected in the district. The remaining members are appointed by the borough president. CEC 15 is a state-mandated public body responsible for ensuring that public school parents and the public have input in educational decisions that are made at the school district level. Our council reviews education policies and advocates for high-quality education that benefits all of our District 15 public elementary and middle school students. There are 35 elementary and middle schools in District 15. CEC members serve in an advisory role on education matters to the district superintendent, the chancellor of the Department of Education, and elected officials. We approve district school zoning lines submitted by the Department of Education. We evaluate our district superintendent. We review the district's educational programs, and we support school leadership teams. We also submit recommendations for the School Construction Authority's capital plan. For your own privacy, we ask that you turn off your camera and please use audio only. Please sign into the Google Doc link in the chat for attendance purposes. This session is going to be run today as an interactive chat. We ask that you please respect the privacy of others. Do not include names of children or staff in your comments. You'll have the opportunity to ask questions using the chat function for Q&A. If you have specific questions about your child, please send your contact information to cec15@schools.nyc.gov so that we can get back to you in case your question doesn't get answered during this session. Please also sign up for CEC 15 emails at cec15@schools.nyc.gov. So again, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining CEC 15's Health and Wellness Family Chat. I'm Camille Casaretti, the president of CEC 15, and today we're going to be discussing self-care while acknowledging the stress and trauma that we're all facing during this pandemic. We've invited a few of our school mental health specialists from District 15 to share strategies for maintaining positivity during this incredibly trying time. Families are aware of the challenges that their children are facing every day, and this stress and anxiety that we're all holding on to is impacting your life and your child's mood. Know that you are not alone. We're all feeling stress and frustration of this time. It's literally impossible for parents to do all that is expected of us. An environment like this, when you're being asked to do so much more than ever before, and where you're being asked to do things that you've never had to do before, can create feelings of anger, frustration, and cause lack of self-esteem for you and your child. It's very common for parents to try to compensate for their children, and that can make you feel even more stressed and depressed and can impact your relationship with your partner, causing even more stress. Families are under an enormous amount of pressure. This can really take a toll on you, on your health, physically and mentally, but thankfully there are a lot of things that you can do to take care of yourself. One of our goals for today's session is that you'll walk away with a better understanding of how to help yourself while helping others. We're all at different stages and facing different obstacles. Many people are literally steeped in problems caused by this pandemic. And while others are just trying to get through the change, we can all find ways to support each other. We'll be recording the session and posting it on our website at cecd15.org. If you haven't had a chance to look at our website, we have a lot of videos available from our diversity, equity, and inclusion series that we hosted in the fall. The videos are full of information and offer parents and school community members opportunities to learn about the many programs and supports that the Department of Education has to offer. You can also find a variety of topics to research or learn about on the DOE Parent University platform, which is parentu.schools.nyc. You'll have to use your NICSA account to log on. If you don't have a NICSA account, please reach out to your parent coordinator. CEC 15 hosts many family engagement and support sessions throughout the year, and we hope you'll share the information that you learned about today with your school communities. If you're not receiving CEC 15 email alerts, please sign up on our website or write to us at cec15@schools.nyc.gov. As I had mentioned earlier, you'll have the opportunity to ask questions using the chat function for Q&A. If you have a specific question about your child, please send your contact information to us so that we can get back to you in case we don't get a chance to cover that during this session. Let us know your thoughts on how this goes. If you have ideas about helpful topics for future sessions, please drop them in the chat or send us an email. I'm really excited about today's Health and Wellness Family Chat. Our facilitators are Candice Perrier and Rebeca Chen, who have been part of the school mental health consultant program, otherwise known as the school mental health specialist program since its inception. Both are experienced clinicians with strong understanding of best practices in supporting mental health in schools and reducing stigma. Both currently work with D15 schools and school communities as school mental health specialists. As part of the Office of School Health, the School Mental Health Specialist Program aims to support schools in addressing the mental health needs of students and families through professional development for school staff, partnering with school teams to identify and respond to needs of at-risk students, providing workshops and resources for families, providing trauma-informed groups for students, and linking students and families to community resources. I've been coordinating with their supervisor, Marcia Chichester is also here with us and supports program delivery in close collaboration with the BCO Student Services team. So welcome. Thank you so much for being here with us today. I'm gonna turn the floor over to you and really excited to hear about some strategies for self-help. Thank you.
Thank you, Camille, for this wonderful introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. I am now going to share my screen and we will start our presentation. So again, my name is Rebeca Chen. I'm here with Candice and my supervisor, Marcia, and we're very excited here today to share our presentation on self-care, balancing roles, and staying healthy. So these are some of our objectives today. We're going to go through some virtual agreements, self-care, talk about some stressors that we're going through, coping skills, staying connected, and we will end with a mindful moment from Candice. So some of the virtual community agreements is please one mic, if possible, if everyone can just mute themselves. It's just to reduce some background noises. If you have any comments or any questions during this presentation, please use the chat room and we will monitor it. Virtually raise your hand if there is a pressing question or comment. In D17 and in our program, we always say sprinkle glitter and not shade, and this is how we sprinkle glitter. And again, please be patient with technical difficulties. We're all dealing with Wi-Fi's right now, so thank you for your patience, and here we go. So just a quick poll, if everyone can just share in the chat room or maybe unmute yourself. One question is, I take regular breaks during the day and rest. If you can answer it, is it frequently, often, sometimes, rarely, or never?
Sometimes.
Sometimes. Sometimes. Sometimes. Okay, sometimes. Cool. Okay, and I'm engaged with my children and family, and I can go to them for support and give support needed. Frequently, often, sometimes, rarely, or never. Sometimes.
I give support where needed.
When needed, okay. Sometimes. Cool. I'm able to set reasonable boundaries with my partner, children, child, and family members. Often, frequently, sometimes, rarely, or never.
Often.
Often, rarely, sometimes, sometimes. All right. So this is just some of our quick poll. And why are we asking these questions? Because today we are going to talk about stress management and self-care. And sometimes that will come in where we are now. So since we are still in the pandemic and we're continuously to witness the social unrest and dealing with constant crisis in the United States, these are some of the feelings or experiences we might be experiencing, such as isolation, loss of connectivity, stress of uncertainty, worry about the future. We're sitting more often now. There is really no work-life separation. We're concerned about maybe the health risk of COVID-19, or now, when are we going to get vaccinated, or how do we feel about vaccination? And also some mental health risks such as anxiety, depression, feelings of overwhelmingness, feeling of burned out might be coming up for us. So these are some of the things that we are still going through during this pandemic life.
Hi, I'm Candice. So as we kind of talk about the things that we've been adjusting to, not even including some of the trauma families have experienced, grief, loss, illness, all the things that also were occurring prior to the pandemic, we are talking more and more about self-care and what that is, what is enough around self-care, how do we plan? One of my favorite quotes is from Audre Lorde. I have come to believe that caring for myself is not self-indulgent. Caring for myself is an act of survival or self-preservation. As caretakers, as family members, as people in the community, we don't just care for others, we have to learn how to care for ourselves. One of my the face mask right over here on the picture on the left, just kind of thinking about getting on the plane, the first thing that they tell you to do is to apply your face mask before, or oxygen mask before giving it to anybody else, because you can't take care of anyone else before first taking care of yourself. So why do we take care of ourselves? So many reasons, even before the pandemic, but even now as we're under more and more stress, it's important to plan and be preventative about our self-care. So providing care to others, especially our children, is an intense and demanding job. I'm not a parent, so I can't even imagine working, maintaining your own responsibilities, and then having your children learning at home. Caregivers and parents are under pressure to meet the demands of running a household, your own personal concerns, and responding to childcare. Stress is natural, it's necessary, and it's inevitable, but it can take a toll on your health and your ability to parent in a way that you might want to be able to parent. It doesn't just affect you, it impacts the children in your care, people you may be in relationships with, it impacts everybody around you. So here's a visual of how stress, unmanaged stress, can take a toll on your body. Here it can take a toll on your body, your mind, your energy, how you feel, your thoughts. So there's here are some symptoms of stress. You can have physical symptoms, fatigue, exhaustion, headaches. There's so many there's a lot of emotional toll on your mind and body from stress, including sadness, anxiety, anger. There can be a lot of confusion, forgetfulness, difficulty concentrating, which of course impacts your behavior. How you interact with others, your own irritability, how you communicate with the people that you love and communicate with people that you work with. And then there's a lot of feelings emotionally and spiritually around what you believe, how you feel about yourself, a lot of existential questions about purpose, especially as we talk about trauma, grief, and loss, wondering why. Those are all those all take a toll on how we function. So has anybody experienced anything that this little guy on the left is depicting? Anyone have increased feelings of physical symptoms, emotional symptoms?
I wrote down headaches. Headaches. Mm-hmm.
I know for myself, there's been a lot of times that I practice breathing exercises, and at the end of this session today, we'll do a quick breathing exercise to kind of address our central nervous system and talk a few minutes about how breathing can really help alleviate symptoms of anxiety. I know some other teeth grinding. I know I've myself have experienced that before. Impacting sleep, waking up during the middle of the night. All this also impacts how we fuel ourselves, how we cope around food, even other ways we cope around alcohol, smoking. There's negative ways, there's positive ways, but how we experience stress also impacts what we put in our body.
In the chat room, we do see a lot of physical symptoms such as digestion issues, shoulder pain, restlessness, that emotional part, vision problems, and not able to get back to sleep. A lot of sleep disruptions that we're seeing.
Thank you for everybody for sharing.
Okay. So pre-pandemic life, we have different strategies to cope with stress. And now in the pandemic life, maybe some strategies used to work and now we have to and it doesn't work now because of either restriction, time, or whatever it is. And now we have to reassess what are some of our coping strategies during this time in the pandemic life, right? So one way to cope with some of the stressors or feeling is to focus on what we have control and not have control. So for example, having control is how much news I read and watch. Sometimes just being, for example, being on social media or just watching any source of media, news media, it can be very overwhelming because we're constantly seeing what's happening in the world. We're constantly being exposed to crisis. And that can trigger, again, our nervous system and it can trigger our systems of survival. How much time, again, we spend on social media, that is something that it's within our control. Maybe some days we just have to say, hey, we need a break from social media. It's getting overwhelming. Let's take some time off. Where I direct my energy, how I speak and treat other people, how I choose to self-soothe, the decisions that I make, how I handle my own feelings, how I look after myself. And so these are the things that is within our control. But what we don't have control is how other people behave, how other people feel, other people's thoughts and ideas, and other people's decisions.
Rebecca, I'm going to just add one
thing
to this. Earlier in that quick poll question about boundaries, this is an excellent way to kind of think about what boundaries are in your day-to-day. So boundaries aren't just around relationships. It's also boundaries around your time, boundaries on what you can handle every day. You're capable. You might be capable of one thing one day and not another day. So really kind of understanding that when you think about the things that you can control, where do your boundaries fit in and how are you communicating them?
Thank you, Candice. And on this slide, we're talking about coping strategies. And these strategies really reminded me of one of the consultants that I worked in my private life. Dr. Wang used the seesaw metaphor. of stress and coping strategies. So on one side, we recognize that stress do show up in our bodies, how it impacts our mental health and our feelings. And it sometimes can be quite overwhelming. And on the other side is coping strategies on how to deal with the stress with demands, right? So we're constantly on the seesaw, like going back and forth. So when we're stressed, what do we need? We need some coping strategies, right? And sometimes coping strategies might not work and we're feeling a little bit stressed. And so like, what do we need? And being self-aware of our own needs to cope with some of the stresses, right? So for example, some of these coping strategies on distraction, it's basically absorbing your mind in something else. So it could be like conversations, listening to music, read, do puzzles, computer games, TV, learn something new, cleaning, tidying up, or gardening, arts and crafts, right? Sometimes we just need some break away from everything that's happening in our lives. Grounding, which one of the techniques that Candice is going to use is really focusing on our breathing. It's to really get out of our head sometimes and just really focusing our physical body and ourselves. So, and grounding can sometimes be smelling fragrances like lavender, or slowly eat your food and taste your food, noticing the colors around you, focusing on things that you can touch, do yoga, meditate, or exercise. I love this one, emotional release. And it's just really what it is to let it out. Sometimes we just need a good old cry. Maybe we just have to close or be in the bathroom or close our bedroom door and just let it out. It's to release some of the energy inside the body that what stress has been doing. Watch a funny show that you're having this like belly laugh, which is like, again, allowing yourself to let go some of the energy. You know, sometimes might be screaming at your pillow, just again, letting it out. Okay. Self-love, and that is like thinking of some self-love, what it is means for you to again, taking care of yourself. So it could be with, if you feel comfortable, maybe getting your nails done, but if not, taking a nice warm bath at home, or making your bed, or just putting on a red lipstick for today because I want to feel confident, I want to feel cool. That's self-love. Or you can just, instead of wearing hoodies for the day, put on a nice shirt. And that is just to, again, giving yourself some of attention and some love for yourself. And thought challenges is to write down some of these, some of the negative thoughts that we might be ruminating and keep coming up. It's like, oh my God, I didn't do this, or I made a huge mistake. I forgot about my schedule. This Wi-Fi sucks, my whole day, all of these things, right? And just imagining yourself, someone like you love and that are having these like negative thoughts, what advice would you give them? So what advice would you give yourself? Access your higher self if you can and have the means to do so, maybe donating to an organization during this time, or doing something very simple as such as smiling, or turning on your Zoom camera and just smiling, helping each other out, or sharing some of your self-care tips with each other, sharing some recipes with each other. If you have an animal, give them a big, big hug. And it's just to really cope with some of the stressors that we're experiencing.
Okay, so there was one comment in the chat that I want to acknowledge, and I think it's a wonderful example as we talk about self-care, is Zoom meetings. While convenient and essential now, has broken our time boundaries. I can even say for myself, some days are way more overwhelming. I can look at my schedule and see that it's going to be back to back to back. When we're talking about self-care, it's really about planning ahead. So self-care is preventive, and stress management management is when you're already in it. So when we're talking about self-care, it's looking ahead, planning ahead. It may mean that some days you would have to meal prep. It would mean that some days you might need, instead of your, this might be generous to say that you get 6 hours of sleep, maybe getting 7 hours of sleep, or trying to get to bed earlier, or doing what you can to make you feel more energized and restful. So yes, some days we're not going to be able to take things off our plate, but how are you planning ahead to address those things? And that's the difference between self-care and stress management. So know your ABCs: awareness, balance, and connection. So being aware of what's happening in the moment, how it's showing up in your body, and that takes a lot of practice to understand what feelings you might be having, how it's connected to your triggers, to whatever state you're in at the moment. Balancing, sometimes it's not about achieving balance, it's just the art of balancing. And again, to go back to that seesaw. And connection, staying connected with yourself and others around you, the opposite of being isolated. So awareness, we touched on some of this: be in touch or attuned to your needs, know your strengths. So some of that self-love is really acknowledging your wins, the things that you do. Every single person here has a strength. Every child has a strength. Being able to really acknowledge that and affirm that, not just for others, but for yourself. Knowing your triggers, what activates you, what are the things that make you more prickly, understanding how that shows up for you, and understanding that because of that, there are going to be limitations, and there's going to be some parts of your day or yourself where you're going to have to give a little extra attention to. So again, staying at home, saying no, forgiving yourself, taking a step back, taking a beat, asking for help. Time alone is as important as staying connected. Putting yourself first. Sometimes as parents, that might not be possible all the time. Asking for what you need and setting boundaries. And as we all know that we all have some strengths. Here are some examples in different categories of strengths: and wisdom, courage, humanity, moderation, transcendence, justice. So just kind of take a moment to look over the list and see if anything sticks out to you, something you can hold on to even just for today. And if you'd like, you can share it in the chat box, but it's also something you can kind of just keep for yourself. I guess I'm gonna see which one I want to kind of tap into today. I think that for how I woke up this morning and how I feel and how I felt over the last couple hours, I think that the one that I'd like to honor for today is teamwork. I actually don't see Rebecca and Marcia very often. Well, I haven't seen them in quite a bit, but I haven't worked with the two. Just the two of you all, so in a while. So I'm very grateful to have you guys, and so just want to grasp onto that one today.
And I'm sprinkling glitter over.
All right.
So going back, balance, that is one of the B part, right? And when going back to the metaphor of the seesaw, what does the balance in our lives look like in these moments? And it's the constant planning of self-care and really thinking about what is working for us, what is not working for us. And it's how are we combating burnt out with this balance, right? And using our coping skills to cope with moments of stress. And also for our self-care is proactively think of our own practices that resonates with us. What do we need in moments where we just need a break? Or what do we need in moments constantly doing it for ourselves as we coping with everything that's happening in the world? Again, we are dealing with stress demands, think of the things that works well for you. It is not always going to be 50-50, and that's okay as well. But balance is really what we constantly talk about, but we actually, few of us actually do or achieve. It is something that we need to continually to strive for. It's continually to assess what our needs are, what is working, what is not working, and when moments of like feelings are coming up, what do we need for ourselves to honor those feelings that are coming up. And it's really, self-care is really talking about positive coping skills and having a sense of balance with work, with life, parenting, self, and all these other parts of ourselves. Connection. I don't think we do this enough. It's really celebrating our small wins and victories. Write down some of your small wins for today. And what does that look like? For example, my little small victory is learning how to cook rice during this pandemic using a pan. And I celebrated. I was like, I know how to make rice now. And that was huge for me. So it's remember these little moments for ourselves to like, I think we got it this time. We're okay. Don't be afraid of adversity or conflict. Conflicts and adversities are going to come up in our lives, especially sharing space with the same people every day. Again, borrowing from Dr. Jenny Wang is conflicts doesn't kill the relationship. It's actually apathy. Conflict really ignites that desire to fight for the relationship, for self and others. So what are we learning about ourselves when we are encountering a conflict during this time? And again, checking in with yourself, developing a plan for yourself. And I think throughout this presentation, we're talking about making a plan for yourself, but really sit down, have some time for yourself to think about what is working for you, what is not working for you, what on the spectrum that you want to add on or you want to take out. What are some of the self-care practices you want to do in a daily practice or once a week? Just write out a plan. These are just some examples. And I always love the last part of this is plan your work and work your plan. At the end, we're talking about wellness. And wellness is an active process through which people become aware of, make choices toward, and a more successful existence, right? It's a shift from unconscious living where you do not think about your health until you have a problem or experience symptoms to conscious living where you are actively making healthy choices to promote your success and well-being. Wellness is the full integration of physical, mental, and spiritual well-being. And if you see in this picture here, it talks about the wholeness of ourself, which is environmental plays a part, mind and body, the social, spiritual, choices, values, identity, financial, intellectual. Those are all different parts that makes us the whole self.
All right, so here's a good way to look at or have some perspective about your self-care routine or your overall wellness. So here is an example of a kind of wellness wheel so that you can kind of look at, there's typically about 6 categories: physical, psychological, emotional, spiritual, personal, and professional. So thinking, and you can kind of look at some of the examples of all of those, but it's really important to think about how you're balancing yourself. There have been times, I'm sure, where your emotional wellness is stronger than maybe your physical care and your health. There are different times in your life where some of these might be really strong and other times more weak, but really a way to kind of look at the different areas of self and maybe take a moment to look at where your strengths are here And also where you might feel a little limited right now, or are you more emotionally drained, or does your body feel like it needs to move or be fueled in a different kind of way? And one thing I like to think about when thinking about how, like, which area I want to put a little more care in, is you can really combine some of these things. So thinking about physical wellness, you can do that with your family. You know, you can do some of these with a friend. You can make it your own, and find different ways to kind of touch all of these over the course of a couple weeks. Maybe not every single day can you possibly do something for every single category, but thinking about how to make this more of a routine for yourself. All right, so self-care and mental health for kids. So I know that, yep, this is for parents, and thinking about how caring for ourselves will help our children. There are things that you can do to model self-care for your kids, sharing your own feelings to encourage self-awareness, using feeling words to acknowledge that, you know, mom is a little upset right now, or mom is feeling sad. So being able to model that, and not even just some of those heavier emotions, but also happiness and joy. Focus on articulating those feelings. Recognizing toxic stress events, encouraging your child to focus on the moment, practice mindfulness, set aside time for low stress and solo activities, find social groups that help them feel like they belong. I know that is a little bit trickier these days. Cultivating interests and hobbies. We have them as adults, and children have them too. Really finding ways to cultivate joy, you know, things from gardening to planting to having a plant to cooking to taking time together. Those are all different ways to do that, both for yourself, model it for your children, and also create community and connectivity. All right, just reading the chat and catching up real quick. Okay, so I wanted to practice a breathing exercise with you all, but just want to first talk about the importance of breathing exercises and mindfulness. So, you know, everything like yoga, meditation, mindfulness, breathing, those are a way for us to check in with our bodies, understand what's going on in our mind. It may be very frazzled, what's going on emotionally, where it's showing up in our body. Our breath is always the present moment. So that's why when we're talking about mindfulness, we say to bring it back to your breath. So today we're going to practice something called balanced breath. And I'll guide us through it, but we're going to just practice what it means to ground ourselves and take a moment to regulate our breathing. When we regulate our breathing, especially when we're feeling anxiety or stress, our nervous system is acting up. It's activated. Flight or freeze kicks in. And when we regulate our breath, it's letting our body know that we're okay. So being able to do that and practicing it, your body will start doing it more by default and as a muscle, the more and more we practice it. So I'm going to invite you all to take a couple minutes and just kind of, if you were sitting down or if you're laying down, or if you can, if you're standing, please, you know, try to sit and get into a comfortable position in your seat. We're going to first relax, kind of shake out your shoulders, bring your shoulders away from our ears. I think there are times in the day where I catch myself and I'm like tense. So maybe just taking a moment and feeling any tension that you might be experiencing in your body. Just noticing it, acknowledging it. Try not to be angry at it, just for now, acknowledge that it exists. Place your feet on the ground. Notice what it feels to have your feet on the ground or your seat in your chair. and take a moment to notice what it feels like to be supported right now in this moment. If you're comfortable, just slowly lower your gaze or close your eyes. We're going to first take a deep inhale in through the nose and exhale out of your mouth. And do that a couple of breaths. And we're going to practice what is balanced breath. So we're going to start with the count of 4. So I will, for the first couple of rounds, count to 4 as we inhale, and then we're going to slowly exhale on the same count of 4. And we're going to just start with inhaling through our nose. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Inhale through your nose. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Go ahead and try it a couple of rounds on your own. You may feel better and more comfortable with the count of 2 or 3, but for today, just make sure that it's the same count inhale as the count for the exhale. Do that one more round of breaths on your own. The bottom of your last exhale, just let it out with a sigh. When you're ready, feel your feet on the ground. You can slowly open your eyes and reorient yourself to the space around you. And take a moment to notice what you feel, how you feel, where you feel it. And give yourself a pat on the back for taking time for yourself today to practice mindfulness, and taking time to feel what is happening in your body. Mindfulness is paying attention to what is happening in the moment intentionally, doing it on purpose, and being non-judgmental towards whatever comes up. So whether it's a thought or a feeling or a tension in your body, finding a way to not judge it, but to treat it with care. Thank you all for being with us today. I know that is a brief overview of self-care, but we hope that you are able to take one thing from this and hold on to it as you move through your week and interact with your loved ones. We just kind of want to open it up for any questions that you might have or any thoughts, comments, anything really.
Oh, do we have, yes.
Oh, here's some resources. I'd also, if you, there's some wonderful breathing exercises on Headspace. And I also have been using So Peloton app is free for 2 months. They have wonderful breathing exercises and yoga, quick 5-minute ones. So that's definitely a wonderful resource right now to use if you're interested in practicing more meditations, breathing exercises, or yoga.
Any questions or comments, suggestions?
Thank you.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Thank you for the invitation to the workshop. I'm glad that I came. It means a lot. It meant a lot to me personally, and just relating to what I do and how I'm doing the job that I'm doing, relating to the parents and the teachers and everyone that I have to deal with every day, and the various challenges that come with having to be the resource person for them. It also gave me some resource support for myself. And I appreciate that an awful, awful lot, because this was one of those moments where this did for me what the goal of what your workshop is about. And that's to release, relax, and relate to who you are, how you are. And it's okay to be that. So I thank you for that very much, both of you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Also, Camille asked if there are any hotline numbers that people can call. We always say, please utilize NYC Well, which is here. Their website, there is that number. Marcia, if you can, is it 1-800-NYC Well?
Yes, hold on, I'm looking it up right now. If you just do a quick Google for it, it's text, chat, talk 24/7. It is 188 NYC Well. And then you can just, if you Google it, it'll give you a whole slew of other resources for both the app and other resources as well. So it's a great starting point.
There was one comment was any thoughts about creating time away from screens for kids and adults to reduce stress that will be welcome. I think right now our lives have been like so integrated with screen time. It has been our work life. It has been our kids' school life. It has, sometimes we use screen time as TV as our self-care time, or just like scrolling on our phones. Some of my friends suggested like playing board games or doing arts and crafts, just taking a walk with each other if you feel comfortable. Those are just some offerings and some suggestions.
Yeah.
I would agree, and you know, I'm using screens more than ever. Really scheduling in the times where those screens are off, creating a bedtime for it. You know, for your kids or for yourself. Even. You know, I know it's winter. I see the sun shining, and I know daylight savings is right around the corner. So I know that there will be more opportunities for later nights to be outdoors. But right now, it's really just taking a look at what the must-haves are and the times that those things aren't there to schedule and create and plan. You have to plan for the for what to do instead of being on a screen.
And also like maybe another thing that I've been doing with my nieces is just doing little projects with them. I found something called KiwiCo, and we've doing some like extra little projects using their hands and stuff. But just scheduling a time away from the screen, maybe for 15 minutes, and just have a conversation or do cooking together, baking. Those are the things that I've been doing with my nieces.
I was gonna say, if eating dinner together was not a pattern, it might be something you want to start, because again, it gives a structured time, an hour or whatever away from the screen time, and actually talking to the other people in your house. That's a nice way to build it in for kids. And yeah, just, I think Candice said it really nice when she said, give the devices a bedtime. The anxiety increases when you go to bed with your phones and your computers. The blue lights, they really have been shown to increase anxiety and heighten stress levels. So the more that you can, you want to, like, at least an hour before bedtime to just cut all of that off. And it really does. It's a difficult thing to do at first, but it's possible, and it really is helpful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, writing letters,
I love that idea.
pen pals. I think we're trying to bring that in. It's very nice. And this is just our contact information. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out. And thank you all again for today.
Rebecca and Candice, I can't thank you enough for taking this time.
Thank you.
Marcia,
Thank you all.
sometimes you just need a reminder, and it's really important for people to take that small amount of time for themselves, 10 to 15 minutes a day. It really makes a big difference. And you know, if you have to set an alarm to do it, just do it. Don't forget to try to increase like fun in your day. I mean, literally anything that you can think of. We reviewed a few self-help tools, and there are many more. Everyday activities can be turned into opportunities. We mentioned cooking and baking. Trips to the supermarket can actually be like fun events. So try to make a game out of everything is my advice. Well, schedules are super important. Scheduling things to look forward to, that'll help your entire family to really feel motivated. Scheduling fun activities will help children to stay on task throughout the day and help you plan your time better. And I would say, you know, and I hear other educators saying, like, don't worry too much about the learning right now. That is going to come when the engagement is there. And what's really important is to just sort of like look to the future, to a better day, and you have control over all of that. Like, just don't forget that this is a process of goodness wherever you can, whenever you can, and just like keep that flame of hope alive for yourself and for your family. We're all braver, smarter, and stronger than we actually realize. I want to thank you all for taking your time out of the busy day, and we look forward to seeing you again soon. Please let your friends and family know that this workshop will be available to all on the cecd15.org website. And I want to just thank Candice, Rebecca, and Marcia again for everything that they did today, everything that they do for District 15 and beyond. Stay, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.